Hey, Kaylee, how are you?
Good. It is January.
Yes, it is
And
the end of January for this episode.
yes, are you feeling the pressure as much as I am in multiple ways, including answering the question, what is your New Year's resolution? Because I
Yeah.
don't know if it's just my own personal annoyance, but I'm like, why this is the people go, Happy New Year. You got any resolutions? And I'm like going, it just adds pressure, the question
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like why wait, right? If you want to change something, you could change it in July. So why do you have to wait till January? Or why does January carry this extra weight for everybody? Like, oh, it's such a big moment. Now we got to have these resolutions.
I'm like, who decided that? And then
I know.
it got me thinking the same thing happens in organizations. After you come off of the holiday season, it immediately either it's your fiscal year end or for some other companies, their fiscal year end isn't until March 31st. So now you're
Yeah.
in like the final push, the last
Yeah.
quarter.
Yeah.
It's the Q4 piece. And there's
Right.
something about it where I know even having been in those roles, people are like, all right, goal setting. What's happening with the team? How are we going to ramp people up? And there's this bravado attached to January.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if you've probably seen that where I go, I don't know that it's as authentic as it could be. And I don't know if it's that effective in some ways.
Yeah, it's like the false fresh start. Like you may have just had some rough experiences a week and a half ago, and suddenly you're talking like, "Hey, clear the slate," which there is absolutely a reason to do that, to not dwell on the past. But
Yes.
at some level, it's almost like we're pretending that we just, there's not continuity. There's continuity. People experience things and they're not going to forget what they experienced last year. So you could have met all your goals, but if you burn people out, they're not excited about January just because it's a new page on the calendar.
Yeah, there's something about achieving the results, but feeling really shitty about it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like there's
exactly.
something, yeah, we did
Exactly.
all the things, but in order for that to have happened, we went through massive restructure. In order for that
Right.
to happen, there were multiple roadblocks. And then you have this personal side of your life too, where heaven knows what you could have gone through, what's happened in the background there. And then you hit
Yeah.
this month and it's like, all right. New year, new you, personally, professionally, push, push,
Right.
push. And I just think it's worth calling out the what could you actually do instead? Like, how do we, Joe, I'm going to use one of your words here, but so feel free to tag onto this, but how do we reframe it?
Yeah.
Whether it's the last quarter or the start of the year versus just this auto look at make your final push for the final quarter, or we're just going to change the entire way we were feeling until this point, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Before I tag on to it as like what reframing looks like, I kind of want to
Yeah.
separate reset from reframe because I think
Yes.
that's the
Okay.
that's the fork in the road, and
Okay.
it's saying choose a path for these reasons. Reset kind of implies the Men in Black magic pen thing where you forget everything. It's
Yeah.
like, let's just reset. And reset has this false, um, it's almost like the culture is pretending that all the stuff that didn't work just disappeared, but it's still bubbling under the surface. So there's frustration that you as a leader is
Mm.
trying to brush all that crap under the rug like it never happened.
Yes. Yes.
Reframing is living in the real world. And it's being vulnerable enough to say, hey, we suffered through some shit last year, and I'm sorry that happened. And here's what I think we should do now. We could spend a lot of time digging through that and complaining, and all we're going to do is get dirty and smelly and be miserable. Or we can reframe it and say, what do we want this year to look like? What do we want the next month to look like? How do we want to work together to be most successful? And reframe is simply saying, regardless of the challenges, we're going to look forward and make it better and different because that's our only choice. Our only choice is to make it better. Otherwise, we're going to repeat ourselves and have another miserable year or
Yeah.
challenging year or years with the same ups and downs. You're always going to have ups and downs, but
Hmm.
you don't want to repeat the same year over again. And you certainly don't want to pretend none of the bad stuff happened.
So it's almost like instead of, okay, the goals are important, obviously, the business and the KPI and all the
Right.
things. But
Exactly.
more what you're speaking about too is this anchoring in intention.
Yes.
Like, how much time do we spend like purposely spending time on anchoring an intention?
Yeah.
And
Right.
that doesn't have to have a profit outcome, right? I know.
No, no. It has a profit impact, but it doesn't have a profit
Yes.
outcome, right?
Yeah, I like that.
You know?
Yeah. So this idea of something, okay, for example, something like clarity over speed.
Yes,
It reminds
exactly.
me, Joe, have you seen that comic? It just reminded me of that comic strip where there's two guys in the vehicle and the speedometer says 100 miles an hour. And the guy beside is holding the map. And he
Yes.
says to the driver, he goes, I'm pretty sure we're headed in the wrong
That's
direction.
right. That's
And the
right.
driver goes, who cares? We're making good time.
Yes.
And it just,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
that,
I've
that,
worked with a couple of those, it's, ready, fire, aim people. It's like,
yes.
they already are moving 100 miles an hour, but they're not checking to see if they're even close to the right direction. And that's what clarity gives you. Clarity is pausing to say, what do we want to do, why, and how we're going to get there. And it's really why, what, and how, right? It's why are we even here, right? Why
Um,
do we exist as a team? What are we
yeah.
trying to accomplish, and how will we accomplish it? Then pick a direction and start moving forward.
Yeah. Because it also just comes back to that's, and even from a professional example, it makes me think, have you ever been too busy driving to stop to get gas?
That's
You
funny.
know? Like, it just like, and I have heard that before, but it literally happened to me last week, Joe. I was like, "You know what? I got these 3 things." I'm like, "I don't have time to stop and get the." It's like the important thing gets put on the wayside of the urgent thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It and
And you made me think of another driving dynamic, which is you ever drive to work and like especially early in the morning and you forget where you parked, and it's not because you were literally asleep at the wheel, but you
Mm,
were in the zone of habit where you don't remember the drive, you don't remember anything, and you just got there. And that's almost like how we approach work sometimes. It's like
mhm.
we just unconsciously repeating the habits of the past, or we being intentional about what we want to do differently to be more successful, because nothing changes without an intention and then an action. And certainly, if you forget the past completely and you don't at least have it as an underlying source of inspiration, think of the
Yeah.
difference, right? The past can be fear that holds you back. Oh my God, this didn't work. We were terrible. I don't want to even bring it up. So we
Mm,
live in fear of talking about the past, or we live in the inspiration of overcoming the past. And in the sports world, that happens, right? We just had a weekend of American
yes.
football where a bunch of teams lost, and really close games, like ridiculous. I think every game was under 7 points, except like the last game
Okay.
last night. And what we learned from that is these are all teams that have to come back to training camp and figure out how to get better. They can't pretend they didn't suffer a painful loss, but they have to be
Yeah.
inspired by that to say, here's what we did well. Here's what we're going to carry forward into the new season. And here's what we've learned. And here's what we're going to do even better to succeed. So they're kind of reframing their failure as what is our success model going forward?
It so you can't pretend it didn't happen,
That's
you
right.
know?
But don't dwell on it because you'll just dwell on the misery of it.
Of it, yes. I feel like it's worth my Canadian counterparts to get some sort of relevant additional counterbalance example
Yes.
there, and it is the Blue Jays because this team being it's our only team, Joe. It's all we have, okay? So when I say that people were invested in the World Series this year in this country, I mean invested. Like
Yeah.
people that didn't even watch the sport were watching these
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, I'm sure it
And
was amazing.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
to make it to the World Series and lose out in that way, I mean, if we're thinking about a sports reference, like just the pain, the emotional drain, but then also to acknowledge that and be grateful for it in some ways. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been, 92, 93 was the last time I even made it there. So I feel like
Yeah.
there's this acknowledgement. And so I kind of get what you're saying too when it comes to teams and organizations. Like we cannot just pretend we didn't go through all the shit over the
That's right.
last year and
That's
go,
right.
yeah, let's start with new KPIs in January because I don't know if I'm a team member in that room, I'm looking at you going, well, here we go again,
Yeah.
versus let's acknowledge it. Let's learn from it. Let's call it out and say that that was shitty. And let's set intentions moving forward that aren't necessarily just number based.
Mhm.
Even, Okay, so if intention, I like that first one where we said clarity over speed. I'm trying to think of another intention and something that touches on something you and I are both passionate about, like
Hmm.
trust.
Hmm.
And if we think this idea of, protecting trust while under pressure,
Yes. Yes.
what what could something like that look like in terms of an intention, like in reality for a team? Do you
Hmm.
think
Well,
this
right. So
idea?
why is that intention important? Because
Yeah.
it's the only time that you are challenging a trust at the greatest level. Meaning, it's sort of easy to trust that people are doing the work and getting it done and approaching it the right way. Um, you know, except when there's the pressure added to that. So when you have what was the second part of it? Trust and what?
Yeah, something about protecting trust while under pressure, like
Yes,
acknowledging
and
the
right,
pressure's
any
gonna
kind of
happen.
pressure, that's what I was getting
Yeah,
at. Sorry,
yeah.
in the middle of there, I had this beautiful moment where I lost my train of thought, and I stopped moving 100 miles an hour and asked for
Yeah,
clarity.
you're allowed. Look at the map. It's okay. Yeah.
No, it's easy to trust people when things are going smoothly.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust people when you as a leader are under pressure. Because when are you more likely to micromanage? When you're feeling the pressure of deadlines looming and all these things coming at you. And that's when trust matters most, because that's when people are going to sense that, well, you really don't trust me, because you only trust me when it's easy. You don't trust me when it's hard. And apply that to any behavior as a leader. If you only do it when it's easy, you're not really committed to doing it and people don't feel it.
Yeah. And in certain styles, I'm really passionate about my personality stuff. But as you were
Yeah.
saying that, it made me think there are certain styles specifically that when the pressures ramp up, when things get more stressful, that outcome focus, need to control,
Yes.
logical piece gets over exemplified. So people, they will double down on it. So the individual who likes making decisions or likes deciding the strategy, it like gets tenfold. So
Yes.
now these individuals who might have been more willing to hear your perspective, at least a little bit, in this pressure moment, they say things such as, just give it to me, I'll take care of it.
Yeah,
Just leave it
exactly.
with me, I'll handle it. And
Exactly.
take it, it's like the control freak aspect gets ramped up more so.
Yep.
And then this intention of building trust with the team. I mean, good luck in those moments, right?
So what do they
Like it,
do instead? How do you overcome that, personality drive to kind of how do
yeah.
you put that person how do you sideline your needs in that moment as a leader? Because you need it as part of your personality on some level. You feel like you need this kind of control.
Yeah, because you feel like you're the only one that can do the thing.
Yeah.
It's exactly it. They go, I can't bother. I don't have time to train this person. The thing was due. It's due Wednesday. I don't have time to train you. I might as well just do it myself. I'll stay an extra
Hmm.
2 hours and do it. And
Hmm.
so the perception then becomes, gosh, this person's a real micromanager. Gosh, this person just doesn't want to hear anyone else's opinion. So in that moment, especially during times like this of the year, you're making this final push, this goal setting piece, it requires the leader who is very logical to catch themselves in that moment and go, does this behavior serve you for the long term?
That's right.
Because like to be willing to have this moment of, yes, you know what, you will probably fix it and solve the problem this week if you take it on. But
Hmm.
what happens 2 months from now when the same thing happens again? Like you
Yep.
cannot do the work of the whole team. So there's something about appealing to the logic because that matters to this person, and
Yeah.
appealing to the outcome in a way that achieves their purpose. Because when I think about the motivators, at least for that style, it's like, what is the purpose, the why behind this? Like the
Hmm.
what's in it for me? Like, did we achieve the thing and did we do it as efficiently as possible?
Hmm.
So if I were coaching or talking to that individual, I would go, listen, yes, you solved the problem, but is this behavior efficient day
Hmm.
after day, month
Hmm.
after month? Because the answer is obviously no.
Right.
I
It's
don't know. Does that make
unsustainable
sense?
to
Yeah.
constantly step in, right?
Yes. Yes.
You made me think of another aspect of creating pressure. I mean, not creating pressure, creating distrust without pressure. Because if it
Mm,
looks like pressure, what I mean by that is just because of your style, you ask a lot of questions and it feels like
yeah.
mistrust. But it's simply you like to know the ins and outs of it. You're very much a under the covers why person. Well, without disclosing that, you're going to make people think you don't trust them. So part of this is losing the trust that you've built under pressure. The other part of it is unintentionally, you know, destroying trust because of your own style. Your own style lends itself to, it feels to them suspicious, micromanaging, et cetera, when it's simply the way you work. So how do you balance that? And we've talked about this before. It's that I need to know why. Don't don't take it as mistrust. I trust you. I'm just a big why guy, right? Can you have that conversation openly so that people truly believe you and they don't think it's just a disguised way of about a disguised way of not trusting them and figuring things, you know, and staying on top of stuff.
Yeah, you're right. It's because the pressure piece, I guess, applies to the different styles differently. And what you're talking about there with these individuals who are much more discipline driven, much more analytical in this way, on stress, they get even more nitpicky,
Yeah.
right? They get even more what seems critical of others
Yeah.
because they believe that they have the right answer. And so when we come back to this idea of setting intentions for your team, but you're that kind of leader and then pressure ramps up, like it can be much more difficult to keep trust going in that
Yeah.
way when you're in
Absolutely.
that moment. So I guess like it's my big pitch to come back to, gosh, the power of self-awareness, hey, to realize when
Yeah.
it's happening in
I
that
mean,
moment.
you know, it's funny. We could talk about self awareness and self management every episode.
I know. It's hard not to include it, honestly,
Well,
which
because
says
if I
something.
think of the way leaders get themselves in trouble is either a lack of self awareness or a lack of self management. You
Yeah.
know, it's like you either you don't know why you do something or you do it anyway. You know?
Which,
It's like you
oh,
make the
which is
choice
worse.
anyway,
Yeah.
right?
And
It's like I know I'm a micromanager, not me personally, because I despise it. So why would I be it? But I know I'm a micromanager, and I'm going to do it anyway. That's self awareness without self management. If I'm just
yeah.
micromanaging, I might not even know I'm a micromanager. It's just my behavior. So I don't even have the self-awareness to manage it. So self-awareness is key. And you don't get there without mirrors. You don't get there without asking. And that's where this whole like turning the page for the year and being
Mm,
vulnerable is the vulnerability piece comes in by saying, look, we didn't have a perfect year. By the way, we're never going to have a perfect year. We had some struggles, we
yes.
had some challenges, and that's okay. I don't want to pretend that the good stuff didn't happen and the bad stuff didn't happen. I want to simply say, how do we make this year better than ever before? And here's my part. I'm going to do this differently. I'm committing to this. And what else can I do differently, by the way? What do you see that I can change? And I'll tell you a story about that for myself.
Okay.
I came up with a different way to handle engagement scores because I was observing for years the same garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
So leaders would get engagement scores. They would by themselves try to come up with a plan for improving their engagement score, and they'd
Right.
submit the plan to the software package. And I was pretty confident those plans never saw the light of day. The teams never heard about them. They just checked the box for submitting their plans. And then
Mhm.
I looked at some of these plans and I thought, I hope they didn't share this with their team because that would not build engagement. That would ruin engagement. So these were really some
Mm.
awful ideas to boot. So the
Okay.
combination of some plans were probably never shared, some plans should never be shared. I said, how can we approach engagement differently? So I put the planning in the hands of the employees. And I said, the employees gave you the feedback. Why not ask them to give you the plan? So we essentially trained ambassadors of a sort who went out
Yeah.
there and showed teams. These were team members, by the way. No leaders were involved. Team members who had a
Perfect.
special interest in this showed other teams how to develop an action plan around their engagement scores and present it to their leader in a conversational way so they could all agree on it. So it took the pressure off the leader, but scared some of our leaders because they're like, what am I going to hear from my team? But it gave this team this incredible power to say, well, you want to change your culture of your team. Here's your opportunity. What do you want to tell your leader? So, my team, they had my scores, they had our results, they had their
Yeah.
own comments, and they came to me with a beautiful insight that was something that
Mm.
was a blind spot for me. And the blind spot was pretty straightforward given my personality type and style. It was the fact that I have a lot of the strategy and the vision in my head. And I don't always articulate it, not because it's a secret, but because of my intuition. I think I'm
Yeah.
being clear, but I'm not. So I say bits and
Right.
pieces of it, and I expect people to piece it all together and figure it out. And that's just that's a common flaw of my type. And they called it out, but notice the difference.
Okay.
if they just came to me with negative feedback, it might have put me on the defensive. Like,
Right.
hey, we don't know what your vision is. You're not clear. Instead, they presented the results and they had a bunch of ideas. And within those ideas, they said, here's Joe, here's the team. We want you to express with your vision with clarity and and include us in every aspect of it so we fully understand it. And I'm like, absolutely, I'd love to do that. I didn't know
Mm.
I wasn't, right? So it was a blind spot. And guess what? We never missed that again because I learned from this experience. But I put it in their hands and they brought it back to me. So that I think that was a really good example of how my ability to accept the input from them helped us, build a better future together without ignoring the fact that I wasn't good at that before. I was missing something before, even though it was a blind spot. It wasn't a fatal flaw and a big failure on my part. It wasn't even bad behavior. It was just incomplete behavior. I was missing something. So by turning the page, I would have missed that. But by reframing, by saying, hey, well, how can we be even better? They presented me with an idea that worked.
There's two things I really like about that. One, how telling that the group felt comfortable enough and safe enough, Joe, to be able to present back not just an action plan on things they want to see within the team, but like to say to your leader, and by the way, I'd appreciate if we had a little more clarity from you, or like that says so much about your leadership style and who you are. I can just imagine people listening to this going, well, I don't want to give that much. Like either I don't know, or like the fear of what the team might
Yeah.
say, or my
Yeah.
thing is fear of what they won't say.
Yeah.
Like how like that works when that that is you've created that environment where that made it okay. So I almost just wondered, challenging people to try that and then see if you get no feedback from your team on what they want to see differently from you, like that's also pretty telling.
Yeah.
And
That might be worse news than an idea.
yeah, but also
Yeah.
maybe important to know, 'cause I'm like, that
Yeah.
tells you something as well. And then the other thing I really like there is that the acknowledging of, yeah, things didn't all go according to plan.
Hmm.
Like to say that, I think the way that you worded it, I should have wrote it down. It was something like you said, like there's no perfect year.
That's right. Yep.
Like this idea that when was the last time you had a year that went exactly as you anticipated it would, and
Yes. Yes.
all according to plan? It just, I don't know, Joe. I've never had that. It's never happened to me once where everything went
No.
exactly according to plan.
That's
And
why
so,
planning with excruciating detail is an illusion, and it's just mental
yeah,
gymnastics. It's a game you played to feel certainty and control. We search for certainty. Certainty makes us comfortable because we'd rather have false certainty than real uncertainty. But the reality is,
yeah,
we have real uncertainty all the time, and if we just accept that, we'll be happier. We'll be more successful. Because by accepting uncertainty, we approach the year with flexibility and with peripheral vision. When you have too much certainty, you approach the year with tunnel vision, saying, I see point A to B and I'm going for it 100 miles an hour. When
yeah,
you have real uncertainty, you say, I am at point A and I'm moving in direction towards B. And every step of the way, I'm looking around for external factors and systemic changes
mm,
and government regulations and competitive difference. And I'm seeing the big picture so that when things change, we pivot and we say, we're not going that way anymore. We're taking a left here. You can only take a
mm,
left when you get off the blinders and you slow down and look around. And I think that's
right.
accepting uncertainty, which is so hard for people because they love the
Oh,
false certainty of a beautiful plan. And they say
yes.
beautiful plans are dangerous because you get the same dopamine hit as if you accomplish the goal.
Hmm.
So if you love your plan, you might feel so satisfied with it that you feel the dopamine of success without ever doing it, which is hilarious.
I I'm immediately thinking about a personal thing. When we think about the year's certainty,
Yeah.
we had just bought our dream house. Okay. So, like, you move to this new city, you buy your dream house, you're invested in your life moving forward for this year. I'm running my own business, doing the things. And then you get this big element left, like you're talking about. I mean, in
Hmm.
this case, it was the pandemic, but which, I didn't want to say, I keep referencing a 6-year-old pandemic, but it
I
wasn't
know.
in this
But
case. It's
right.
hard not
But
to.
it impacted you. So, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're in, so your life's going this certain direction, you get the house and all the things, and then this element left thing happens, and it results in an entirely new game plan, new
Mhm.
city, new job opportunity. And to look at that and go, like, that was rough. There's a lot of challenges throughout that, but there was also this incredible benefit
Yeah,
that came from the element left as well.
that's right.
In this exposure to this new organization, the opportunity to meet these new people, like, it literally took my life down this whole other path that came from that turn. I I almost am wondering if when we think about setting intentions, for a new year or your last push in this quarter with your team, that acknowledging what went well, when didn't, that nothing's going to be perfect, but that also there's a learning moment to take from this that has a real positive thing to take forward,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
that way. I think there's something in that. I also realized I said the word element left quite a bit, and I do want to call out that is a square dancing reference
Oh,
from my country heritage. I'm just realizing, is anyone going to know what an element left is? Maybe not, but yeah,
thought it
those
was
are
some kind of
important.
supplement, but I like the fact that it's
Yeah,
square
sorry. I
dancing.
was like, maybe I
Like, have
should
you
clarify.
taken Element Left yet? No, I haven't.
It's a square dancing reference for
That's
those people who are
amazing. That's
wondering.
amazing.
Okay, so there is that.
I'm
Um,
I'm going to
yeah.
Texas next week, so I'm gonna
Are
sound
you?
really smart when I bring it up as a reference.
Okay. I don't know how popular square dancing is in Texas these days, but at least if you say it
I
around some
mean, it's a better
locals,
shot than Florida, right? So,
yeah, that's probably very true. Oh my gosh.
well,
Um,
I'm trying to. I want to dig up. I want to dig around this little relic here that
okay.
we're talking about. I don't know how to
Okay.
get there, but it's like you talked about the plan and then the surprise. And I think one of the other things we struggle with as humans is we think like surprises that hurt are always bad. Like it's like we almost want to wish away the bad stuff without
Yeah.
ever taking the perspective of the long term and saying, but how did that bad stuff pivot our lives in different ways and where do we end up? And I don't mean end up at the end. I mean end up now,
Right.
you know? And for
Yeah.
me, when this episode airs, it will be within days of the 5-year anniversary of my heart scare.
Right.
So, and for those you don't know, I can't, I didn't write a book about it, but the pivotal point in the book I wrote about the unmasking is when I had this heart scare that changed my life. And if you would have asked me that weekend, if you had a magic power to sneak into the hospital room and say, Joe, but trust me on this, 5 years from now, you're going to be really happy and things are going to be great. I'm going to be like, can you please get out of my room? I'm going to die right now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have been open to the possibility that that was a moment that would pivot my life into a better direction. So I wouldn't wish it away. I'm grateful for it because I would have never changed if it wasn't for that moment of fear and reckoning, so to speak. And not everything has to be that massive change, but every failure, every struggle, look at it now and say, how did that redirect me? How am I a better
Mhm.
person for it? How am I a better leader? How am I a better spouse, friend? Like, how did it shape me? Because it's like we all have these rough edges that get shaped by the experiences, good and bad. And don't
Mhm.
forget the bad ones because they shaped who you are.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I just think there's something in there that even if people haven't had that kind of extreme experience, Joe, like, I
Yeah,
just think it hits home for people. Everyone has had bad things, tough things happen to them
right.
personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to just step back, especially at this time of year, and go, if you feel exhausted coming off the holidays, if you are drained, if you are feeling the pressure, that's first of all, it's okay because you're
Yeah.
not alone. Like,
You're not
really,
alone.
like, you're not
Yeah.
alone. And
Yeah. It's
so
not
this whole,
unique.
like, yeah, this get out there and rah the troops put it is gonna feel tougher than it and that's probably fair, a fair assessment. So how can we give a tip, tool, or tactic? I'm trying to think about, like, if we were to close with our 3 T's, because there's probably some good conversation on there,
Yeah.
on is there a tip, tool, or tactic, kinda knowing all of this, that you think would be really beneficial for people to kinda, like, as a takeaway?
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's
Um,
one way to approach this is to say, you don't have to wait. First of all, you don't have to turn the page on a year to change.
yeah.
So at any time in the year, you could ask this question. But if you're at this point of the year and you want to frame it over a time, you could say something like, hey, let's take 15 minutes to think about how we can create, the best conditions for an amazing year so that in December, when we look back, we'll say we had a great year together. So it's framing it around what are we going to do now to create this amazing outcome of looking back in December and saying we had a great year together. That's one idea.
Yeah, I think we could call that the 15-minute December look back,
Exactly,
to
exactly. And
say,
thank you, because I was struggling with the thing. I
"Oh,
know we named it something and I couldn't think of it. So thank you.
no, I think it's good though, because what you're saying there is to go, like, if you're sitting around with your group and your people, your team, and maybe even if you're not the leader of the team, you just
That's
bring
right.
this up as right to position this forward. And this time next year, if we were to look back on this and the year went great, like we
Right.
feel really good about it, not just the business outcomes, but how we felt about the year. Like, what does that actually look like? What would the parameters be? What would we be saying this time next year? And I think
That's right.
that's a really cool conversation to have as a tip.
And
What
you could have
about
it you could have it every month. You could have it at a meeting every
yeah,
month. You could say,
yeah, I
"Hey,
like
it's
that.
it's it's March, and if we look back in December, what are we going to change this moment? What can we do differently this moment? What are we going to aspire to be this moment for the rest of the year so that in December we're really proud of that?"
Yeah.
You know?
What about the difference between I'm trying to think of a tip tactic tool around the difference between quantitative and qualitative goals.
Yeah, yeah,
Is there
yeah.
something in there, Joe, about that really would be helpful?
Yeah, yeah. I think we've mastered quantitative goals, right? We have to produce 1 million widgets. We have to train 1,000 people. We have to hit a grand mean score on the Gallup survey of 4.4, 4.3, whatever. Like, don't worry about quantitative. What is qualitative? Like, what's my favorite example of qualitative is simply, you know, what am I experiencing? Because an experience is measured in quality, not quantity. You can have an amazing time with someone versus
Mhm.
just spending 5 hours with someone. An amazing time could be one
It's
hour of
different. Yeah.
concentrated amazing, right? So, how can a team have a qualitative goal? To say,
Mm.
how do we know that we are, connected and thriving as a team? And that's right. That's a separate measure because it's not about the times we do anything. It's about the
Mm.
how we felt about it. And how do you do that? I mean, have you experienced that? What's some tips you have for that?
Yeah, for me, it does come back to some of the intentions like we agreed upon as a team. Like our
Yeah.
qualitative thing is like, hey, no matter what happens this year, we have each other's backs.
Yes.
And whether that's in a one-on-one conversation or a team
Right.
meeting or a presentation you're doing with exec or whatever, like on this team, on our crew, we have each other's backs and we like commit to that and it's a thing and we had a conversation around it. So I don't know if it's exactly the pieces you're touching on, but for me, when you say those words out loud to a
Yeah.
group of people in the same conversation where you're talking about KPIs and everything else,
Yeah.
it is a commitment you're making in that way. It is something you can look back on in December and go, like, did we do that the whole time?
Yeah.
Were there a few conversations that didn't feel like that? I don't know. I think that could probably fall into that example maybe.
Well, a team can ask the question at a meeting, who had your back this month?
Yeah. It's
And
like a
and it's
kickoff.
remember, we don't air dirty laundry because that just destroys the culture. We fix cultures that would like if the only question you could ask is who stabbed you in the back this month, you've got a big
That might
problem.
be that
And by the
leads
way,
to a
there's a
different
whole we don't have time to talk about how to fix that, but
yeah.
we can help you with that. But
Yeah.
the easier question is who had your back? And if there's not enough examples, you might have a
Mm,
problem, right?
hmm.
Did anyone have your back this month? Did you ask for help? Because it's a two-way street. Some people don't know that they got to put themselves out there and ask for help. Other people have to offer help. So, how
Yeah.
can we create a more helpful, collaborative team where someone has your back? And then
Yeah.
talk about it consistently.
Yeah.
Same
I
way we
like it.
talked about like my idea, what I did with my team was starting every meeting with gratitude and appreciation. What are you grateful for? Who do you appreciate? And
Yeah.
it wasn't using the appreciation tool and writing a little note and sending it through email so they get points to get a free trinket, which is nice. And that's a good add on to actual appreciation. This was genuine face to face. Thank you for doing this for me. I appreciate you.
Hmm.
And if you don't have enough of that happening, your team's not connected and they're not clicking.
Hmm.
And maybe your team is very siloed because of the work they do, but how
Yeah.
can you create more camaraderie in a team that doesn't necessarily have to collaborate constantly? You still would want to create camaraderie because it's better for people to feel like they're in it together, even if they're not working on the same projects. It's just knowing that you have someone you could rely on because you could always ask a peer in another area of your
Yep.
team for advice. Just as a objective third party, hey, what do you think of these
Sure.
circumstances? They might have a great idea because they don't have your expertise and they
Yes.
see it with fresh eyes. Never discount the opportunity to ask someone who doesn't know your business to say something you don't see yourself.
Yep. I love it. Okay, I've got a third one.
Fire away.
To incorporate this question into the whole January planning, goal setting, or final quarter question. What is what is the thing we don't want to lose?
Mm,
Just because I'm sure there are some teams of people that have been doing some really great things, or there's a
yes.
piece that's working with that particular
Yes.
group. And
Yes.
I think it's really important to call that out and go that, like, what is the thing that we are not going to give up on? What is the piece that we don't want to lose on this team, and getting that defined.
Yeah. And it's a
'Cause
team capability or strength. It's
yes,
really something you can
yes,
name.
yes. Because
And you could
now
take
you're
that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, because now you're adding a lot more authentic layers to a conversation that becomes much more deeper and invested and bought in than just, "We gotta make sure we hit this KPI."
Yeah. Right. That's there anyway. People know that.
Yeah.
What I was going to say with the team thing, it's like, what do we want to carry forward as a team? So, what does that look like? That looks like reflecting on what we do well and saying what's our greatest team strength and being intentional about doing more of that in the future.
Mhm.
And guess what? You could do that for every person. Hey,
Hmm.
Kaylee, what's the one strength you want to carry forward and expand upon in 2026? Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
what's the one strength I want to carry forward and expand upon in 2026? Focusing on expanding strengths is far more rewarding and has more meaning than trying to fix that weakness that gets in the way sometimes. Because it's like once in a while that causes a stumble, but that strength is what causes you to hit your stride and feel really good. So focus on
Yeah.
strengths and minimize the stumbles. Don't hyper focus on the stumbles because that's a waste of energy.
The first thing I thought of was my sense of humor. Gotta work on the jokes, Joe. It should be more in depth and deeper than that, but when you asked me the question, I thought, "I gotta find a way to be funnier because I mean, I'm leading these workshops and my agenda joke is still bombing exponentially, and I think it's my timing, but we all have things that we can get better on, I guess, is the takeaway here. So I like that for sure, and I hope that there's something in the tips or tactics that are helpful to people as well, because I've just stopped answering the question, "What's your New Year's resolution?" I just
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on a path to just be a better person daily, monthly, weekly,
That's right. That's right.
versus kick one off. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree with you. There's no need for grand proclamations. The simplicity of just being a better person every day of your life is much more rewarding.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna start saying now. "What's your New Year's resolution?" "Just trying to be a better human." Got
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I love it. Oh my
All right,
gosh.
this was fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate you as always. You're awesome.
Ditto.
Happy January, end of January. And I look forward, I think we should mention that we're probably going to have a guest pretty soon,
Oh,
another guest.
yes.
And that'll be fun. And we'd love more feedback. How's this going? What do you think? What topics do you want us to cover? I know I have a topic
Mhm.
from the quad that we talked about once, my work group,
Yes.
that I think we should cover pretty soon, which is a really good one. And but we want more input from listeners and viewers to say, hey, talk about this or give us more of that or less of that, because we want to learn and grow and evolve this thing.
I love it. Sounds great. We'll see you soon, Joe, in a fortnight.
All right. Take care. Bye, Kaylee.
Bye.